Okay, so we are continuing. We're going to try to finish Chapter 2, Lesson 3 today. So draw a squiggly line underneath number 3, and then write today's date, November 9th, 2020. And we're going to start with number 4. But we don't need to write it yet. So once you have written number 4 on the left side of the pink line, put your notebook under your textbook, and then put your pencil down, and be ready to read on page 113. We're on page 113. Okay, so the other day, last Wednesday, yes, we talked about metamorphosis, and we talked about incomplete metamorphosis. What was incomplete metamorphosis? What was incomplete metamorphosis? Zari, please tilt your camera down so I can see you and what you're working on. Michaela.
An incomplete metamorphosis is this kind of metamorphosis.
Well, what kind of metamorphosis?
An incomplete metamorphosis.
Well, what about it? You said it's this kind of metamorphosis, but that doesn't tell me what incomplete metamorphosis is. Victoria? So is the female damselfly the only insect that goes through incomplete metamorphosis? So should that be the definition for incomplete metamorphosis? What is incomplete metamorphosis? The answer is there in your book. Kingston?
When an insect really some insects really kind of change.
There is a specific definition in your textbook. Come on, guys. Every Monday we deal with this, and it's pretty frustrating. Zadie?
In this kind of metamorphosis, each body form is separate, but not that different from the one before.
Good. So we know metamorphosis is a series of very different body forms. Incomplete metamorphosis means that there are separate body forms, but each one is not that different from the one before. Please sit up. I see a lot of looks that are like, oh, this is so annoying and boring. Well, guess what? If you tried to find the answer, guess what we could move on with more quickly instead of sitting here being bored. If you tried to find the answer, then maybe you could find it and you wouldn't have to sit there and wait. But if you don't even try, well then yeah, you're going to sit there and wait. Okay, so incomplete metamorphosis is a series of very different body forms that aren't that different, like this female damselfly that we see at the bottom of page 112. We see each one looks a little different, but we can still tell it's the same animal. Well, now we're going to talk about something different. So please read on page 114, down at the bottom. Cullen, loud and slow. Tell everybody where their finger needs to be.
Complete metamorphosis.
So find the black words, complete metamorphosis, towards the bottom. We're not looking at the diagram yet. We're looking at the words. So at the bottom of page 13, you should see the black subtitle, complete metamorphosis. That is where your finger should be. When I see everybody's finger there, ready to follow along, I will let Cullen know. Go ahead.
Complete metamorphosis.
A little louder.
Butterflies go through complete metamorphosis. Look at the sequence on photos.
Not on photos, but
Of photos. Each life stage is unlike any other stage. Beetles, flies, and mealworms also have complete metamorphosis.
Good. So complete metamorphosis, just like incomplete metamorphosis, it's where the insect has very different body forms as it grows. But the difference is, in incomplete, they're different, but not that different. But in complete metamorphosis, they are completely different. You would not be able to look at two and be like, oh yeah, that's the same animal, unless you already knew. So, Cullen, let's look at this diagram at the top of page 113. Look at the first box that is labeled number 1. Please be looking in your book. Your notebook is not going to tell you what complete metamorphosis is. Okay, Cullen, what is the first stage in a butterfly's metamorphosis?
Egg.
Egg. Tell us about the egg.
A female butterfly lays an egg on a leaf.
Not lays an egg, but lays.
Lays eggs on a leaf.
Good. So the female butterfly lays eggs on the leaf. So we can see that little egg. It's like a little yellow egg shape with kind of lines on the outside. Then we get to the second stage. What is the second stage, Cullen?
Larva.
Larva. It looks super different. We have this little egg that's an egg shape and yellow, and now we have this animal. What does it look like, Cullen? What does it look like? Victoria? A caterpillar. That's because for a butterfly, the larva is a caterpillar. So we have this little egg, and then we have a caterpillar. Well, tell us about the larva.
A male-like,
Not male. What does that say?
worm-like larva hatches from the egg. It begins to eat the leaves.
Good. So then we have that second stage. It looks completely different. It's worm-like, which means it's long and kind of skinny and tube-ish, whatever. And it starts to eat the leaf. Why do you think it's eating the leaf? Mason? That's its food. And why does it need food? So it can grow. Well, then it enters the third stage. Cullen, what's the third stage? Look, there's a, if you're not sure how to say that word, the very last bit of that 3 is the pronunciation key. Do you see the pronunciation key?
Mm-hmm. Pupa.
Good. So the pupa. It looks pretty different. That's it. What do you think this part of the butterfly's life cycle is? What do we call that? It's in its... Zari?
Kid-like.
No, it's not that. Michaela? It's in its cocoon. So when it's a pupa, it is in its cocoon. That is a funny word. You're allowed to think it's funny. I think it's funny. Okay?
The larva becomes a pupa and develops adult tissues and organs.
Good. So when a butterfly is in its cocoon, that is when it's a pupa. It is developing its adult tissues and organs. But you can see it looks completely different from the egg, and it looks completely different from the larva stage. Well, after it is a pupa, what does it become, Cullen?
It becomes an adult.
An adult. Tell us about that.
When it leaves the pupa, the animal is an adult butterfly. It has 6 legs, 2 pairs of wings, and a pair of long antennae.
Good. So we see each of those 4 stages, none of them look alike. The only thing we see look alike is that, well, in the pupa and the adult, well, we can kind of see where its wing design is coming from. But does it look anything like an adult butterfly other than just seeing that design? No. So that is complete metamorphosis. Look at the difference between the damselfly on page 112 and the butterfly on page 113. On 112, well, it changes, but not all that much. But on the page 113 with the butterfly, it is completely different from stage to stage. After which of these stages does a caterpillar become a butterfly? After each of these stages, after which stage does a caterpillar become a butterfly? Smith?
After the pupa stage.
Good. After the pupa stage. So when it changes, when that stage changes from pupa to an adult, that is when it is a full butterfly, a full-grown butterfly. Which stage follows the larva stage? Which stage follows the larva stage? Carla.
Larva.
Which one follows the larva stage? That means which one comes next?
Pupa.
Pupa comes next. Good. What is the first stage of complete metamorphosis? Mason? The egg. Very good. I need somebody to tell me each of these stages in order. What are the 4 stages of complete metamorphosis in order? So sequence those stages. Everybody know what sequence means? It means put things in order. If you are sequencing, you are putting those things in order. So please sequence the stages of complete metamorphosis. Zadie.
The egg.
Egg.
The larva.
Larva.
The pupa.
Pupa.
And the adult.
And adult. Now, this is critical thinking. We're going to answer this question on the bottom of page 113. What stages of life do humans seem to go through? You can list them. Where do they start? Zari.
As nothing in someone's stomach.
Well, after they're born. So they're born. What comes next? They're born. Then they are
They're babies.
Huh?
They're babies.
Then they're a baby. Well, after a baby. Mason? A kid. Sometimes we could put a toddler stage, like an infant, then toddler. But a kid, after they're a kid. What are they? Michaela? A teenager. Good. I was looking for that one because I knew some people might say adult. But before you're a kid, you're a teenager. Then what? Cullen?
An adult.
An adult. A young adult. Then what? Smith?
An old adult.
An old. Well, we could put something in the middle. A middle-aged adult. Like most of your parents. Well, maybe not. Because a lot of them are the same age as me, and that makes me a middle. We're not quite there yet. We're not quite there. Almost. Almost. I'd say like 40s, 50s, middle-aged. And then an older adult. Very good. Yes? Really might be moving towards. We're all there. Okay, very good. So does everybody understand the stages of life? Now we just listed the human stages of life. But do humans go through metamorphosis? Why do we know that humans do not go through metamorphosis? Don't tell me because the book says it. But based on what metamorphosis is, how do we know that humans do not go through metamorphosis? Zari?
Because we don't change as much as we do. We just get less cute and we grow bigger.
Good.
Just really restricted.
Very good. Because metamorphosis is completely different stages of growth. Humans don't change that much. Like Zari and I say, they just get bigger and a little less cute. But we still look the same. We still have 4 legs. I'm sorry. 2 legs, 2 arms. I was thinking 4 limbs. Like limbs, the parts that hang off. Our head is in the same place. We have the same number of eyes. We don't grow wings. We don't grow antennae. We don't grow extra legs. We stay the same. We just get bigger and less cute. Okay. Turn the page. Thank you, Cullen. Read next. Zadie, loud and slow. Tell us where to put our fingers.
How do animals reproduce?
The big blue words, how do animals reproduce? Kingsley, you don't need to be writing anything right now. Finger on how do animals reproduce. When I see everybody's finger there, ready to follow along, I will let Zadie know. Okay, go ahead.
The life cycle.
Oh, but reread the subtitle.
How do animals reproduce?
Use your finger to follow along, please.
The life cycle of every animal includes reproduction. is when parent animals make offspring.
We know that. We learned about that with plants because it means the same thing. Just instead of parent animals making offspring, parent plants make offspring. But it's the same thing. Keep going.
One parent. Cnidarians and other simple invertebrates reproduce by building,
Not building. What is it?
budding.
Budding. Very good.
A bud forms on the adult's body. The bud slowly develops into a new animal. After some time, the bud breaks off. It grows into an adult.
Look over at this diagram on the top of page 115. We can see at the top, we see budding. We see this hydra reproduces by budding, just like cnidarians and other simple invertebrates. That means a little bud forms on the adult's body. We can see down at the bottom of this hydra, we can see that little piece, that little small brown piece coming off. That is the beginning of a bud on the right. And then to the left, we see kind of a smaller version of this hydra. This is the animal after it is almost ready to break off. So that little piece, that little brown piece on the right is a bud. That longer piece that's lighter colored but looks the same shape is the bud as it's about to break off. So that's how cnidarians and some other simple invertebrates reproduce. They only need one parent for that. Like we need two parents. Most animals that we think of need two parents. But some very simple invertebrates don't need two parents. They only need one. So that's one type of reproduction. Zadie, go ahead and finish out this. No, read the next paragraph. Wait, tell everybody where we need to put our finger.
Sea stars and other.
So, sea stars and other echinoderms. Everybody finger ready to follow along? On your desk, please. And scoot your chair in so that you can see it. Okay, so your finger should be on sea stars and other echinoderms. And Zadie, go ahead.
Sea stars and other echinoderms can reproduce by regeneration. This is when a whole animal develops from just a part of the original animal.
So, if we look at the middle of that diagram, yes.
Did we finish the paragraph before sea stars?
Yes. Oh, did we? Yeah, we did. It grows into an adult. Mm-hmm. Yes, we did. So if we look at that, if we go back to that diagram on page 115 and we look at the middle picture, this is what regeneration looks like. There's the arm of a sea star, and you can see a new sea star is growing out of just that arm. You see the really long arm, and then you see 4 more tiny little arms growing off. That is regeneration, where a piece of the animal breaks off, and then a new offspring can grow from that one piece. So it's different from budding, because in budding, the new animal grows off of the whole parent and then breaks off. In regeneration, the new animal grows from just a piece of the parent. Again, do you need 1 or 2 parents for regeneration? Do you need 1 or 2 parents for regeneration? Victoria? You can go out in the hall if you're bored. You want to go out in the hall? Or do you want to participate? Scoot your chair in, please. You can go teach it to yourself. Please be an active participant. So you only need 1 parent for regeneration. Okay. Thank you, Zadie. Read next. Zari, loud and slow. Are you able to read right now?
Been asked previously.
No.
Okay. That's okay. I'll put your stick. Well, we'll put you back in and we'll see. Smith. Tell us where to put our fingers.
Both budding and regeneration.
So find both budding and regeneration. Put your finger there and be ready to follow along. When I see everybody's finger ready to follow along on both budding and regeneration, I will let Smith know. Go ahead, Smith.
Both budding and regeneration produce clones. A clone is an exact copy of its parent.
Okay, so Smith, what's our fourth vocab word?
Clone.
Clone. And what is a clone?
An exact copy of its parents.
An exact copy of its parent. Notice there's no S at the end of parent because in regeneration and budding, how many parents are there? Mason? 1. So we have the singular form of parent because regeneration and budding only need one parent. So clones are the offspring of one parent because we know a clone is an exact copy. Everybody think about it. Are you an exact copy of one of your parents? Like, do you look exactly the same as one of your parents? I mean, every single thing about you is exactly the same as one of your parents. No. Nobody is, because how many parents do you have? 2. So that means 2 parents came together and you have some things that look like your mom and some things that look like your dad. So can you be a clone if you have 2 parents? Do you think it's possible? Why? Why is it not possible to be a clone if you have 2 parents? Zari.
Because you have to, like, you don't just look exactly like your mom. You don't look exactly like your dad. You have both of their traits.
Excellent. Ooh, and you use that science word that I was really hoping whoever answered would use. Because a clone is an exact copy of its parent. So it has every single trait of that one parent. But animals like humans and many, many, many other animals that need 2 parents to reproduce have traits of both. So if you have traits of 2 different people, can you be just like one of them? No. No. Hey, very good. Let's see, Smith, you were reading. Tell us where to put our fingers.
Inheriting traits.
Inheriting traits. That subtitle, inheriting traits. You need to sit. You've been getting up way too many times. Go put that in the trash can right now. You can put it in the recycle bin because it's paper. Quickly, because we're not waiting for you. Okay, when everybody's finger is ready on inheriting traits, I will have Smith continue. Yes, sorry, quickly.
I have to have 4 parents.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But genetically, your genes and your traits mostly come from your biological parents. But yes. Smith, go ahead.
A clone has
Don't forget
characteristics or
to
traits
read. Okay.
that are identical to those of its parents.
So
When
that's
traits
why.
are passed from parent to offspring, we say those traits are inherited. All animals inherit traits from their parent or parents. The passing of these traits is called heredity.
Good, heredity. Now, before we write down heredity, I want us to add a definition. So number 5 is going to be inherited traits. That word is in your book, inherited traits. Now, they're not right next to each other, but you can see traits and then inherited right near each other. So inherited traits is number 5. Who can tell us what inherited traits are? What are inherited traits? Smith?
Things that you get from your parent or parents.
Okay, well, go sit out in the hall. Now, traits that are passed from parent to offspring. So inherited traits are traits which are like characteristics that are passed from parent to offspring. That means, are they things that are the same or different about offspring from its parent or parents? Are inherited traits things that are the same about the offspring and its parent? Or are they things that are different about the offspring and its parent? Carla?
Same.
The same. Good. Yes, Zadie.
Since it's in our book, what the definition is, if we know where it is, can we copy it from the book?
As long as it looks like this, because I don't want you to write traits from parent or parent, because I want you to say they're passed from parent to offspring. But yes, that does come straight from the book, so yes. Because if you look right before inherited, it says when traits are passed from parent to offspring, we see those traits are inherited. That means inherited traits are traits that are passed from parent to offspring. They are traits that are passed from parent to offspring. Okay, so these are things like your eye color, sometimes your hair color, the shape of your facial features. Those are inherited traits. Now, there's difference, like if your dad is really good at basketball and you're really good at basketball. That's not an inherited trait. That's something we're going to talk about later today or tomorrow if we don't have time later today. So inherited traits are just things like eye color, hair color, the shape of your face, your hair type, the shape of your features on your face, things like that. Okay? Okay. Smith, what is number 6 from that paragraph?
Heredity.
Heredity. And what is heredity?
The passing of traits.
The passing of traits. Heredity is how you get these inherited traits. If that's helping you, please scoot up. But you need your book. Inherited traits, heredity is getting these inherited traits. Now sometimes your parents' traits mix together. Like if your dad has green eyes and your mom has brown eyes, you may end up with a mixture of those green and brown eyes and end up with hazel eyes. If your dad has blonde hair and your mom has brown hair, you might end up with a mixture and you might end up with red hair. That's what happens sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. So sometimes these inherited traits mix together so that it doesn't just look like your mom or your dad, but it's a mixture. And the same thing happens with animals. Quickly.
It's weird. I'm not like my parents. I'm like my sister.
Well, and there's probably somebody in your family, because I'm that way too. Both of my parents have dark brown hair, and my brother and I both had blonde hair. Now it changed as I got older, but whatever. We both had very blonde hair, and that's because there were people further back in our family that did have blonde hair. So sometimes you may not have inherited the traits from your parents, but it did come from somewhere, like your grandparents or even your great-grandparents.
They did have blonde hair when they were little.
Well, and that's it too.
They died.
So you may end up like me, because I had hair like that. Okay. Let's see. Thank you, Smith. So those are all about one parent. How one parent, let's see. So what are the two ways that one parent can reproduce? What are the ways that you can reproduce with one parent? Carla.
Budding.
Budding, that's one of them. That's where the offspring starts to develop right on the parent's body and then eventually gets big enough that it breaks off. What's the other way? Michaela? Regeneration. That's where a piece of the parent breaks off and the offspring grows off of that. Very good. Well, now let's talk about two-parent reproduction. Zaria, are you able to read? Can you unmute yourself for a second?
Do you have anything around?
Okay, thank you. I'll put you back. Kingston, loud and slow. Tell us where a finger should be. Well, where should it be first? Do we skip subtitles? Louder. You have to move that because you're talking into it, and that means nobody over here can hear it because your voice is going into it. Where should our fingers be?
Two parents.
Two parents. It's very important to read subtitles because now you know this whole little section is going to be about animals that reproduce with how many parents? Two. If you skip that, you might not realize, oh, we're talking about how animals with two parents reproduce. Okay, when everybody's finger is on two parents, I will let Kingston know. Carla, what are you doing? Carla, what are you doing? Carla, come back, please. Your finger should be on two parents. Make sure you're focusing. Kingston, go ahead.
Two parents.
No.
Two parents. Another kind of reproduction requires cells from two parents. The female cell is called an egg. The male cell is called a...
Sound it out.
I know what the word is.
We'll say it. It's not bad. Just say it.
Sperm.
Okay, keep going.
When an egg and a sperm join, offspring are produced. This is called fertilization.
Okay, so fertilization. That's how two parents reproduce. The male cell and the female cell join together and they create the offspring. That is called fertilization. No, we're not going to have that. Okay. So if we look at the diagram on page 115, at the bottom, we can see fertilization. So we see it's the fish, and how many parents do you need for fertilization? Colin?
Two.
Two. So that one is different from budding and regeneration because budding and regeneration need how many parents? Michaela? One. So budding and regeneration, the offspring just comes from that one parent, but fertilization needs cells from both parents. That's why, so would animals that reproduce from, would offspring that comes from fertilization, would it be a clone? Why? Why would it not be a clone? Michaela?
Because there's two different traits mixed together.
Good, because there's traits from two different parents mixed together. Whereas a clone only has traits from how many parents?
Only one.
Only one parent. So it's an exact copy of that parent. But with fertilization, you need two parents. So they can't be an exact copy of one or the other because it's both traits mixed together. Good. Keep going. Whoever was reading. Kingston. Where should our finger be?
As the fertilized egg grows,
So put your finger on as the fertilized egg grows. Put your finger on as the fertilized egg grows. Ethan, I don't think that's working. Please sit at your desk. Okay, keep going. You can go ahead now.
As the
Good. So embryo is kind of the opposite of a clone, because a clone is an exact copy of its parent. It only needs one parent, so it's an exact copy. It only gets traits from one parent, so it's an exact copy. An embryo is different because it comes from two parents, so it has the traits of both parents. So it can't be a clone. It can't be an exact copy of one. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. We have 20 minutes, and this is really, really important because there's a whole question on this stuff that we're about to read right now on your test. So make sure that you are listening and really following along. Victoria, please read loud and slow. Tell us where our finger should be.
What is in
There's the pronunciation key for that word on page 114. Look for inherited traits. It's not far above heredity.
inherited?
Good. So where should our fingers be?
What is inherited?
What is inherited? The big blue words, what is inherited? When I see everybody's finger on page 116 on the word what is inherited, I will let Victoria know. Go ahead.
You read.
Oh, don't forget, you got to reread the subtitles.
What is inherited?
You just read it twice. You just read that word twice. Not inherited. You just read it twice. You looked at the pronunciation key. On page 114.
Inherit. You read that offspring inherit traits from their parents. Some traits like eye color and height can be seen. Others are not easily seen.
Victoria, please make sure you're sitting up because your voice is kind of going into your book instead of out to this direction.
How are the pigs in the photograph acting or behaving? Is behavior inherited traits? Perhaps.
Remember, those are questions, so read them. Remember, when we read questions, our voices go up at the end. So don't forget that.
I'm going to read it again.
Go ahead.
How are pigs in the photograph acting or behaving? Is behavior an inherited trait? Perhaps.
So this is what I was talking earlier. Inherited traits are the things that you can really see, like eye color, hair color, height. That's something I forgot about. Things that you can really see, things that you are born with. Now, you're not born with your height, but you're born with the likelihood that you will be either really tall if your parents are tall, or short if your parents are short, or in between if one of your parents is tall and one is short. But those are inherited traits. Those are things that are going to happen no matter what. Now we're talking about something else. Victoria, go ahead and keep going. Everybody, finger ready to follow along. Where Victoria stopped, you should know where that is. And Victoria, go ahead.
An inherited behavior is a set of actions that a living thing is born with.
Good. So what is, I'm going to erase this and start up at the top because I don't like writing really low. Okay, number 7.
Inherited behavior.
Inherited behavior. Now this is different from inherited traits. Remember, inherited traits are the traits, like the things that you can see about a person, that are passed down from parent to offspring. But inherited behaviors are what?
A set of actions that a living thing is born with.
A set of actions that a living thing is born with. So these are actions. Traits are things that we can see about a person. So what we would kind of describe them as. But inherited behaviors are the actions, the things that we do that a living thing is born with the ability to do. So it's like what I said earlier. If one of your parents is really good at basketball, you may also be really good at basketball because that is an inherited behavior. Not necessarily being good at basketball, but being athletic. So if your parents are both athletic, you are likely to grow up being athletic. With your parents. And that's just, but you still have all of these. You just may not know what they are. Yes, Victoria, quickly.
My mom told me that girls are taller when they're kids, but once they grow up, they like stop growing, and then boys get taller and taller.
It's, yes, something like that, because girls tend to start growing sooner and faster than boys. But then they get full grown and boys are sometimes still growing. That's just how our bodies are different. Okay, Victoria, please keep reading. Tell us where we need to put our fingers.
The simplest kind,
Louder so we can all hear.
The simplest kind is a reflex.
So everybody's finger, including yours, should be on the simplest kind is a reflex. So when I see everybody's fingers ready to follow along, I will let Victoria know. When I see everybody's fingers on the simplest kind as a reflex, I will let Victoria know and she can read. Go ahead.
The simplest kind is a reflex, like blinking. A less simple example is
Try it. That I in the middle of the word sounds like long E. Everything else is the same. Chunk it if you need to. Can somebody help her out? Mason? Instincts. Good. Or instinct. Sorry, not instincts.
instinct. Instinct is a way of acting that an animal does not have to learn.
So what's our next word, Victoria?
Instinct.
Number 8 is instinct. Instinct. And what is an instinct, Victoria?
A way of acting that an animal does not have to learn.
A way of acting that an animal does not have to learn. I've talked about instincts before. It wasn't during science though. Does anybody remember when I talked about instinct? When we were talking about minds and wills? Colin, do you remember?
In religion.
In religion. Why was I talking about instincts? Do you remember? Do animals have minds and wills like we do? They make their decision based on Smith?
Instinct.
Instinct. Because do they think about their actions before they do them? No, they just do what they feel they have to do, this instinct. It's a way of acting that an animal doesn't have to learn. When we learn things, we're choosing to learn them by and we're thinking with our brains. Animals don't really do that. They will go on instinct. They are kind of born in most situations knowing what to do. Okay, Victoria, go ahead and finish out that paragraph. Everybody finger ready to follow along?
Birds build nests by instinct.
So, do birds have to learn to build nests? Do the mom and dad bird have to teach the baby bird how to build a nest? No, they just already know. By the time a bird's ready to build the nest, is it even still with its parents? No, it's flown away. Okay, Victoria, go ahead and read the next paragraph. Tell us where we need to put our finger.
Not all behaviors are inherited.
So everybody, finger ready on not all behaviors are inherited.
Not all behaviors are inherited. Some are learned. Learning can happen when an animal interacts with its environment or with others. Learned behavior is when an animal changes its behavior through experience.
Good. So what's our last word, Victoria?
Learned behavior.
Learned behavior. Remember, if you can't see it on the board, it is in your book. Learned behavior. And what is learned behavior, Victoria?
When an animal changes its behavior through experience.
When an animal changes its, say it again, Victoria.
Changes its behavior through experience.
Good. When an animal changes its behavior through experience. Now, even though animals do a lot of things on instinct, they are still able to learn behaviors. Who has a dog? Does your dog know tricks? Were they born? Well, maybe you have a spoiled dog and your dog doesn't know tricks. But was your dog born knowing how to do those tricks? Like if they sit. Was your dog born knowing how to sit? No, but you taught it by using treats and by moving its body. So it went and had that experience. So now your dog knows if you say the word sit, which they have no idea what that word means, but if they hear that and you have a treat in your hand, they know that they get to, if they just move their body down, they don't know what sitting is, but if they move their body down to the floor, they're going to get that treat. Or if they're like my dog and you forget to teach them the thing in the different order, they know if you say the word sit, then they sit, lift their paw, lay down, and then roll over because they don't know the difference between each of them. She just hears sit and is like, if I do all four of these things, I'm going to get that treat. But were they born knowing how to do any of that? No. So even though we know that animals don't have minds and wills like we do, they are still able to learn because they still have a brain. They just don't think the way that we do. Smith.
My dog still doesn't know what the word sit means, and sometimes I still have to push
And
to
some
get
dogs,
him to actually sit.
and some dogs, no matter how many times you try to teach them something, they just are like, nope, I don't know. And they know they're probably going to get the treat anyway because you feel bad if you don't give it to them. Okay, if we're talking about dogs learning tricks, we can talk about this in a little bit because remember, this is going to be on your test on Wednesday. This is going to be on your test on Wednesday. So let's finish this because we have 5 more minutes before we need to pack up. We only have like 2 sentences left. Victoria, tell us where we need to put our finger. Do you ride? Put your finger on do you ride.
Do you ride a bicycle? Bicycles
When you're born, can your parents put you on a bicycle and you just ride around the room? No. You have to learn how to ride a bicycle. When you're born, can you just have a hamburger right there? No, you have to learn how to eat. When you're born, if your parents throw you in a bathtub, are you going to swim? No. What are some things, though, that you can do as soon as you're born? Crawl. Well, can you crawl as soon as you're born? No. So would that be a learned behavior or an inherited behavior? Learn, because you still have to learn how to crawl, right? Your parents kind of show you. Well, you probably don't remember that. Victoria, what is something you can do as soon as you're born?
You can start crying.
You can cry. So do you have to learn how to cry?
Or get rid of waste.
Or get rid of waste? Do you have to learn how to do those things?
No.
So what are they? Are they inherited behavior or learned behaviors?
Inherited.
Inherited. Anything else? What can you do as soon as you're born? You can move your body. You don't know, you're not moving it for any necessary purpose, but you can move your body. So is being able to move your body a learned behavior or an inherited behavior? Inherited. Good. What are some learned behaviors? Mason? Walking. Good. You can't walk. You can't walk right out of your mom's stomach. You have to wait a little while. Colin?
Eating.
Eating? Well, yeah, because you have your mom, they have to show you how to eat. They have to lead you.
Here's the choo-choo
Yes, correct. Correct. Kingston?
Miss Wallace?
Oh, hold on, Carla. I'll get you in a minute. Kingston, what's a learned behavior?
Well,
We can do this. We're done, so we can do this until it's time to pack up. Quick. We'll come back to you. Tie your shoes. Or put them on. Can a baby put their shoes on themselves? No. So that is a learned behavior. Carla, what's another learned behavior?
Another learned behavior is to sit down.
To sit down. Babies don't know how to sit. All they know how to do is just lay there. And that's only because somebody put them in that position. Smith, what's a learned behavior?
How to carve a pumpkin.
Carving a pumpkin. I've never seen a baby carve a pumpkin. That would probably be really dangerous.
Yes, ma'am, that's true.
Mhm.
Only adults can do that.
Sorry?
Start crying and be like, I want my food.
So, talking. Babies can't talk. They can eventually, but baby just born can't talk. Michaela?
Putting on your clothes.
Getting dressed. That's a learned behavior. Ethan?
They can't sit in a fireplace.
Setting up, okay. Making a fire in a fireplace. That's definitely something that we have to learn. Zadie?
Cutting up your food.
Cutting your food. What about, let's come up with a few more inherited behaviors. Now this could be for any animal at all. Oh, time to pack up. Mr. Stevens, did you have one? Does somebody have to teach you how to breathe?
no.
When a baby is born, is there a doctor there right away to teach them how to breathe? No. So yes, there's
Which
another.
goes back to crying. That could be a learned behavior because when the baby's
You're
born, the
muted.
first thing that happens is they get spanked so that they cry.
That is true too. Maybe. Maybe. Sometimes. Okay.
Miss Wallace?
Yes, Carla, quickly.
When you was talking about inherited tree, I came up with one, and that was to actually to put up their toys.
Okay, yeah, that is definitely a learned behavior, and your little brother is probably learning that right now. Okay, go ahead and clear your desks. Quietly. Clear your desk. And get out your planner. Everybody put your finger in the religion box. Quickly, please. Come on, it's already been done. Oh, let me stop the video.